بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Every time we approach the last few days of Sha'ban, getting ready to enter the gates of Rahmah and the great season of blessings of the month of Ramadan, I personally feel that I'm sitting on an aircraft, taxiing on the runway and getting ready to take off. This is how I feel. I feel the excitement of going to heights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will determine. And today is no exception. I'm really getting excited that this could prove to be the most rewarding Ramadan ever in my life. And I'm sure in our lives, because this Ramadan, we are going to focus on ibadah. There's nothing else. There are no frills that we've been engaged in a halal way, mind you. No one can deny the pleasures we draw from the community iftar dinners and from the Taraweeh prayer and meeting our brothers, our sisters at the masjid, and it's a festival. But this Ramadan, it's going to be a spiritual festival. This Ramadan, it's a month of salat. It's a month of reconciling with the Quran and getting to know the Quran. This Ramadan, it is the month of charity. It's the month of knowing who is in need and reaching out to those people. This Ramadan, it is the month wherein we will fast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with nothing to distract us, nothing material, because we are at home. We are with our family. This Ramadan, we will rediscover our families. But this Ramadan, unlike others that we lived so far, no one received any invitation for Umrah, because in Ramadan's past, there were a few people who were invited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to live Ramadan in Mecca. But this Ramadan, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictated that, we will be at home. Our Mecca will be our home. Our tawaf will be our family. Our sa'i will be, the Quran. And there's no limit, inshallah. Having said that, I really would like to start with a disclaimer that, as you know, the title of this podcast is Zakat Made Easy. And I want to mention that I will not be getting into the heavy fiqhi dimension of zakat, even though I will talk about the basics, because all of us want to know the basics. But like other ibadat, zakat has scholars disagree on certain interpretations. Imam Abu Hanifa gave a different interpretation of what is called the threshold or the nisab than Imam Shafi'i and Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad. There are so many differences that I'm not going to get into. When the second half of the podcast will come, I will be talking about the way I went through the different fiqhi opinions and the way I chose that which is simple for all of us. So inshallah, we are going to start. So another disclaimer is that I do not claim, nor I am, everybody knows, and I say it all the time, I am not a mufti. But alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the ability to sift through different fatwas and then help my brothers and sisters to find out that which will make our lives easier and pleasurable, inshallah. I want to start with a story, just to show the importance of zakat. And before I mention this story, I would like to put a base to that story. And the base is a hadith that is narrated by Abu Dawud. And for the scholars of hadith, they rated that hadith or gave it the recognition as Hasanun bighayrihi. Don't worry about those designations, but it means that it is not at the level of being 100% sahih or authentic, but it is fair, it is acceptable, it is something that we really need to consider. And that hadith goes like this: حصنوا أموالكم بالزكاة وداووا مرضاكم بالصدقة واستقبلوا أمواج البلاء بأمواج التضرع إلى الله. So let me try to translate. Fortify your wealth with zakat and provide healing to members of your family who are sick by giving voluntary extra charities, and accept and face the waves of tribulation with waves of beseeching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is dua. So three things that today, the first one and the second one are so relevant to the topic that when we give zakat, we are protecting our wealth. And this is the story that I would like to share with you. It is a story from the annals of the First World War that started in 1914 and ended in 1918. During that war, in a little village on the suburbs of Damascus called Daraya, which is an agricultural landscape, there was a story that is written for us to really learn lessons from. During the war, droves and armies of locusts or grasshoppers attacked all the agricultural, lands of Syria, of Bilad al-Sham. And in Daraya, every field, every land was devastated completely. But right in the middle, there was land owned by a man that stayed green, lush green, with the produce coming on time, and the owner collecting all the produce that was in that land. And the people around him got extremely angry because they felt that he had a pesticide or an insecticide that he was using that he did not share with the other farmers around him. And they got so angry that they reached out to the wali, or the governor of Damascus, and they told him about that man. So, being a very serious matter, that governor sent the army to really actually capture that farmer and to try to find out what he was doing, that he should be sharing with everybody, that he should not be selfish. And when they asked him, that is the army, why are you withholding that pesticide from your neighbors? He said, I don't have a pesticide. They said, stop being funny with us. Tell us, why are you doing? He said, what I'm doing is something that every single farmer already has. They said, what do you mean? He said, I am paying the zakat of my wealth, and this is what has been protecting my farm. You may think that this is a fairy tale, that this is something, but this is registered in the history books of Damascus during the First World War. This is a fact, because as the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and inshallah we assume that it is a sahih hadith, حَصِّنُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بِالزَّكَاةِ. And there's a story that I am a witness to, a story, another story during the beginning of the civil war in Lebanon. I am a witness. We had a neighbor who had a textile shop in a marketplace in downtown Beirut called Souk Sursuk. For people who are from that part of the world, they know that particular marketplace. And that marketplace was the center of a very severe, devastating battle that destroyed all the shops, everything. And when it subsided, that is the battle, people went to find out, the condition of their shops, what was left, and all of them found that it was total destruction. For our neighbor, he was telling us the story. He told my father firsthand, and I was a witness. I was listening to his story. I was still young, but I heard it. I could relate to it. He said, I went there. I found the door to my shop. I sifted through the rubble. I removed it, and then I opened it, and I went in, and I found everything intact. It's just that the shelves had fallen to the ground. I removed them. I brought a little truck and I put everything, nothing was destroyed. And I brought it, and I am going to open a little shop in our neighborhood, and I'm going to continue to work. And everybody knew the secret of that man. That man had so many families living from his sadaqat, from his zakat. Another story that I was a witness to, how zakat can protect and fortify our wealth. This is a reality. It is a pillar of our deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not stipulate, did not associate zakat with salat in 83 places in the Quran. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. Those who establish salat and they give zakat. Zakat is not something that we have a choice. Zakat is a fard. Sadaqah is a choice. And the more you give of sadaqat, دَاوُوا مَرْضَاكُمْ بِالصَّدَقَاتِ. You may say, what's the connection? The connection is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you give more to those who are in need, when you do not say like those who say, أَنُطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ, in Surah Yasin. Why should we bother about feeding those or worrying about those? Had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so wished, He would have taken care of them. Brothers and sisters, this is not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of the entire universe. But He wanted us to really, engage in social relationships, care for each other, interact with each other. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. This is probably the secret that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to understand. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a yad ulya and a yad sufla, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made some people give and others receive, without humiliating those who are receiving, because on the day of judgment, all of us will be equal. Even those who intended to give, but they did not have anything to give, like those people who wanted to go with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the battle of Tabuk, and they cried and they sobbed with tears. They came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, we would love to go with you, but we have nothing, so that we can, prepare for the journey to Tabuk, which was a long, long journey. They cried, they wanted to, they were given the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ هُوَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ بَلْ هُوَ شَرٌّ لَهُمْ سَيُطَوَّقُونَ مَا بَخِلُوا بِهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلِلَّهِ مِيرَاثُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. You know, for those people who think that, you know, they can freely withhold whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, that this is good for them because they are increasing their wealth, this is really the reason for them to be big losers on the day of judgment. Whatever they withheld is going to turn into the fuel that is going to ignite the hellfire for them to suffer from. I know this is graphic, but this is the truth. This is reality. So zakat, again, I repeat, is not something that we have choice therein, but it is something that is a fard, it's an obligation. And that is why many people, you know, loving to make the month of Ramadan the month of a boot camp of ibadat, whereby, as I said earlier, they pray and they give zakat and they fast and they, you know, outside of this year, they used to go for Umrah, and this is the month. Many of them make their zakat fiscal year during the month of Ramadan. And now I would like to get into zakat proper and try to define that zakat is basically given by any Muslim who has attained puberty and beyond, and has the amount of money that is called the threshold. In Arabic, in the Quranic language, in the Islamic language, it's called the nisab. So you should have a minimum above which you should be giving zakat. If that minimum stayed with you for an entire lunar year, 354 days. It is not the year starting with January and ending with December. It is the year starting with Muharram and ending with Dhul Hijjah. But your zakat fiscal year can be any month during that lunar year. And as I said, the majority of Muslims make it during the month of Ramadan. So what is that threshold? I am a Muslim, I am in full mental capacity, which is a condition, and I am a person older than the age of puberty. What is that threshold? That threshold, according to the scholars, can be based on either gold or silver. And as I will explain, there is a big difference because nowadays the price of silver and the price of gold is way off. The price is not the same. And that is why, we really need to analyze that. Zakat, we have to understand, is based on gold and silver. Now, on the basis of gold, if you own the equivalent in cash more than the price of 3 ounces of gold in today's market, today's value. So let's say I want to give zakat today. I see how much cash, how much assets, how much investment money, as I will explain, I have from last 1st of Ramadan or middle of Ramadan or 7th of Ramadan or end of Ramadan or any other month. I assign a day, and then now it is a day in the following year, this year. So I find out, okay, if I have more than the 3 ounces of gold value, then I have to take the 3 ounces, check how much is the price. I checked today on Google and I found that the ounce of gold is $1,703.55, say $1,700 per ounce. So for 3 ounces, it is equal to $5,100. So if I have in my cash assets, everything that I put together, more than $5,100, then I have to give 2.5% of that which I have accumulated during that year. This is gold base. And you will see when I give you the example on silver base that there's a big discrepancy, and I'll explain what the scholar said. Now, for silver, you should have more than the minimum, the threshold, the nisab in silver of 21 ounces of silver. And in today's market, I found that for silver, it is $15.30. So for 21 ounces, it is $321.30. So you can see that there's a big difference between $321.30 and the $5,100, which is that of gold. Now, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, the nisab should be based on silver. So if you have more than $321.30, you should give zakat, which basically makes us share our wealth more. Because if I say, well, I don't have $5,100, then I will not give zakat. But Imam Abu Hanifa said, no, you start with the silver base, which is the 21 ounces of silver. Now, according to the other 3 madhahib, Shafi'i, Malik, and Ahmed, they are gold-based. So you can see here that whether you follow the Hanafi school or you follow the other 3 madhahib, it is a matter of who would like to give more. If we have the ability, especially today when there are so many people in need, let us not say, well, good for me, I don't have to pay zakat. We should say, good for me that I'm able to give zakat. Please note that. Good for me, I am able to give zakat. So I would say, my advice, that we follow the silver-based nisab, and if you have more than $321.30, then you give 2.5% of what you really accumulated for that entire year. Who shall I give zakat to? You know, the ayah 60 in Surah At-Tawbah, Surah number 9, makes it very clear there are 8 categories of people who are beneficiaries of zakat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. صدق الله العظيم. 8 categories. These are the poor people, the destitute, and let me mention all 8 categories, and then I will define what each one is. So it is poor people, destitute, the administrators of zakat, people who are engaged in collecting zakat and finding who is in need, and they have a full-time job in receiving zakat and distributing zakat, and those who are new reverts to Islam, who were abandoned by their families, by their communities, and now they don't know any extended family within the Muslim community. We can help them from zakat money. And people who are in bondage, people who were in jail, people who were in the olden days, not anymore, even though in certain parts of the world, unfortunately, there are still pockets, slaves, that is, with riqab, those who are debt-ridden, people who are in debt and they cannot have the means to pay their debt. We can help them to pay their debts. And those who are wayfarers, people who are on their way to get home, but they ran out of money, we can help them to get back home. And fi sabilillah, any project, any, at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fi sabilillah, it was basically because that was the major fi sabilillah activity, and that is to prepare for a campaign to defend Muslims against the attacks of non-believers who were day and night attacking Muslims. So to help prepare a campaign was fi sabilillah. But nowadays, even supporting our masajid after the COVID-19 pandemic, the masajid that are running out of funds to even pay the salary of their imams, trying to do the activities that will keep the Muslims engaged in their deen, and other activities that will promote the Islamic cause, then this is inshallah, an activity that is fi sabilillah. Back to al-fuqara wal-masakin. The faqir is a person who does not have the nisab, and everything that he has is basically for food and for keeping a warm body, buying the necessities of the family, and doesn't have anything beyond that. This is a faqir. Okay, miskeen is a person who is much lower than that level. So this is basically there are two categories. So one is someone who is living but is doesn't have the means to live like we do and collect a nisab to pay zakat on, and the other is basically who is below that level. So these are the people who are beneficiaries or recipients of our zakat. Now, so zakat is paid on our cash in the bank. We find that if I had last Ramadan, $321, and this Ramadan I have more than that, then it is basically the minimum that I collected over that year that stayed for hawl, or that year. So it is always the minimum above the nisab, the minimum above the threshold. Let's say I started with $600 last Ramadan, then it went to 321, and then this Ramadan it is $6,000. So basically it is the 321 that is the amount of money that stayed for that entire year. And that's what I pay zakat on. So this is cash. Our investments, basically, we pay, if it is, let's say, let's consider, for example, RRSP. For RRSP, if it is for a long term, and it is something that you are going to, cash at any one time, then basically it is your money. And what you do, you ask your financial advisor how much the value of your portfolio was last Ramadan, how much it is this Ramadan, and you treat it like cash, basically. And you give 2.5% on the minimum in that portfolio in your RRSP. Now, for fixed assets or for stocks, that you are buying for long term. You don't intend to sell them. You just want to collect dividends on. So basically, what you collect, the dividends only, the value of the dividends is zakatable, but the stocks itself, you do not pay zakat until you sell it completely. Then you add it to your cash flow and you treat it like cash. But for the actual fixed stock, you don't pay during a particular year, only the dividends. But if it is, a kind of stock that you buy and you intend to sell because it's a stock that's rising in value, then basically your intention is to sell it, so you pay on the value of that particular stock that is intended to be sold. Now, I know that there are many other examples that, people may have, and I would like to see if my son Ali, who I introduced to you last time, is basically taking your questions. By the way, I did receive some questions even before, when people knew that I would be talking about zakat. They sent me their questions, and I'm going to see if I'm really now technical enough, and it doesn't seem to be working here. I see that there are 6 people engaged in writing questions, but Ali, I cannot see them. So if I cannot see them on my screen, I'm going to take from my questions that I received before. Let me reach out to those questions. Let me see. Yes, I have here a question from Brother Ahmed, who asked me, هل تجب الزكاة على المال المستثمر في حساب ادخار بنكي savings account? So do I have to pay zakat on the money I have in my savings account? Let me, this question basically is very important, because zakat is not on our annual earnings. No, it is on our savings that basically go above the threshold, above the nisab. So basically, your savings account, yes, this is what you really have to, and if you're checking, you are accumulating in your checking, and you find that in your checking, there is an overflow over your needs, your annual needs, then you have to treat it like you combine your savings with your checking, and you find out how much did you have in both accounts that was above the nisab, and then you pay 2.5% on that. So this is the question that I received from Brother Ahmed. And then another question, هل تجب الزكاة على المال المدخر في صندوق التقاعد RRSP? I already mentioned that, RRSP is our money. However, how do we calculate zakat on that? We calculate it by assuming if I have to withdraw whatever I have in my RRSP, in all the different funds that my advisor established for me in my portfolio, he will advise me that if I would have to take all of that today, how much tax do I have to pay on it? Because it's not all my money, it's the government's money. So how much do I have to give? And, then I take that and I pay 2.5% on whatever is left. This is how and I think the third question is about the shares. So there are 2 kinds of stocks, basically, those fixed for a long time, and those that my intention is to sell them when they reach that peak, and before, you know, they go down, I liquidate them, then they become mine. And if they have reached that hawl, or that year, that with the nisab, then I pay the 2.5% on them. Now, there's a very important question. Is it possible to pay zakat to our relatives? Now, who are our relatives? You know, I was asked in the past, can I pay zakat to my father, to my mother? You know, and I answer, what do you mean, pay zakat to you? You know, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is very clear. أنت ومالك لأبيك. You and your wealth belong to your parents. You belong to your parents. So anything you make, anything you have, belongs to your father. So don't ever say that, you know, I give zakat to my father, I give zakat to my mother. No. They are your responsibility. إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما. If they will attain old age while they are with you, while you are now, you know, trying very hard, and you may not be able to attain that goal of paying them back, because we will never pay them back. You know, the hadith that a man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he told him about his mother. You know, I am carrying her on my shoulders doing tawaf, and, you know, Ya Rasulullah, was I able to pay her back? But he said, not even equal to one cry of pain during childbirth. Not even one cry. You know, and this is the reality for those who really need to re-examine their relationships with their parents. I say, you know, you should go and kiss their feet, show respect, show them that you are doing the maximum Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, not the minimum, not the average. You know, don't ever say to them, what else do you want from me? Allahu Akbar. You know, I hope that no one will even dare to say that to his parents. You know, I know that I swayed a little bit. You know, the topic is about zakat. So do I pay zakat to my parents? No. They are part of your life. Do I pay zakat to my brother or sister who I am not responsible to financially support? Here, scholars had two opinions. And I said earlier in the podcast that I am not going to get into fiqh differences. I will choose whatever I feel is an opinion that I am comfortable with, and then I leave it with you. If you are listening to me and you hear, a statement from me that is contrary to what you heard it from a scholar you are following, or go to that scholar and try to find out the difference, because, you know, I don't like to end up giving a fatwa, because again, I am not a mufti. And, you know, any person who really, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ajra'ukum ala al-fatwa, ajra'ukum ala al-nar, that anyone who really freely and lightly give fatwa, that person is taking herself or himself to the hellfire, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I say, you know, the opinion, if your brother or sister, married or not married. Now, if they are not married, then they are your responsibility. Then you don't give them zakat. You have to support them. You have to give them if they are not married. But if they are married, but they are poor, they don't have the means, then you can give them from your zakat. Al-aqrabuna awla bil-ma'ruf, that those who are close to you are more worthy of your good deeds, and zakat is a good deed. So, you give them that, inshallah. Now, I am, here there are 10 questions. It's okay. I'm going to consult with Ali because, last time I was seeing the questions on my screen, but today, for some reason, I'm unable to see them. So I want to ask Ali if he can reach to me and tell me why I cannot see them, and I'm finding that he is typing. MashaAllah, he is typing the questions already. Here I have them now. Jazakallah khair, Ali. Ali, I got it here. Instead of looking at my laptop, I will be looking, at my smartphone here. MashaAllah, it is smart. Okay. The question in Arabic, I will read it quickly in Arabic, then I will translate. إننا على بعد أيام قليلة من شهر رمضان مبارك. And then هل يجوز تقديم الزكاة وإخراجها الآن? Okay, very good question. Can we give zakat before that year is reached, before that limit? The answer is absolutely yes. And the answer is based on sound fiqhi opinion that I'm choosing, even though there are a minority that may disagree, but especially today when there are so many people in desperate need, so many people lost their means of livelihood, you can give an estimate of zakat up to 3 years in advance. Up to 3 years in advance. You can estimate that this year I will be paying, $1,000, and next year it may be 2,000, and the year after it may be 3,000. So I'm going to give $6,000, ahead of time, and then you register that. And then when the time comes for this year, you calculate your zakat, and then what happens if you had estimated more than what actually you calculated, alhamdulillah, the leftover is added to the following year. If it was less, you take from that which you allocated for the second year, and now you finish the first year, and now you have that much for the second and third. And then you can pay now for that third year that did not come yet. And you keep doing that if people are in need. So yes, the answer is you can. However, zakat al-fitr, or as people call it, sadaqat al-fitr, zakat al-fitr, it doesn't matter. I call it zakat al-fitr because it is wajib. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in the hadith that our fasting remains hanging between earth and heaven, and it is yurfa, or it is lifted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we give zakat al-fitr. And the time for zakat al-fitr is from the first day of Ramadan up till Eid. And because this year we are not going to pray Eid in community at our masajid for the reasons that are known to all of us, then try not to delay it till the last minute. Try to give it during the days of Ramadan. This sadaqah, this zakat, you cannot give before the first day of Ramadan, because it is by definition a zakat that is associated with our fasting. Now, what's the value? In Canada, in London, Ontario, our masajid got together and we estimated it to be, the value of one individual meal. And in London, Ontario, it's about $15. But you can give more than that. And now I want to mention, who do I give, zakat al-fitr, on behalf of? Everyone under your financial support, you have to give zakat al-fitr on their behalf. Young or old, male, female, it doesn't matter. If, some scholars, and this is mostly Imam Shafi'i and those who subscribe to a school of thought, they say that by definition for zakat al-fitr to be paid, the person should have lived part of Ramadan and part of Shawwal. So if someone dies before sunset of the last day of Ramadan, you don't have to pay zakat al-fitr on their behalf. What if I paid it, or alhamdulillah, it's a sadaqah, why should you worry about that? And if you have a baby born to the family after sunset of the last day of Ramadan, you don't pay Zakat al-Fitr on behalf of that baby. But if that baby was born even 1 minute, 1 second before sunset of the last day of Ramadan, then you have to pay Zakat al-Fitr on their behalf. Here we have from Belgium, I have a question here. Is it seen as zakat when you give this to a family member who is not enough financial means? I already answered this question. Or should it be given outside of the... No. If there are members of the extended family that are in need, they come first. Do we pay zakat on everything we own or on what we earn during this year? Now, no, actually, it is not what you earn. And I already mentioned this. Zakat is not on our annual earnings. Zakat is on our savings. And if the savings go from year to year, but they fluctuate, then you pay on the minimum that you accumulate from year past to year present. And that's the minimum you accumulate. It's not on the maximum, because that maximum, you may pay zakat on it if it becomes the minimum for the next year. So it is not your annual earnings, it is your savings. And yes, you pay it every year, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, is fortifying, is strengthening your wealth. So it's a thanksgiving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you still have. Many people lose everything they have, and they don't really have anything after they thought they had everything. Now, but inshallah, with zakat, nothing like this will happen to any of us. Now, do we have to pay zakat on RRSP, which is the education savings plan, which is basically for our children's education? Before the idea of RRSP came, parents used to pay for their children's education from their own pockets and from what they have really accumulated. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who really provide for our children's education. But with this program, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is making the means for us to put something aside for their education. So yes, basically, we own that. So we pay zakat on it. And you know something, the word zakat means purification. Imagine you are paying for your children's zakat from something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purified by you helping others who could not afford to send a child that could have become another genius. But his or her parents could not send her or him to school because they did not have the means. So you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that at least you are accumulating something for the education of your children. I just want to make sure that I'm following correctly. So you have to add up all your savings and give 2.5% of this amount as zakat. Absolutely. Yes. So you bring your stocks, your RRSP, your cash flow, everything. And one thing I forgot to mention, because I'm asked this question often. Now, if I have loaned someone an amount of money, and still that person did not give me that money, it's been more than a year, do I pay zakat for that money, even though I don't have it in my bank account? There are two situations here. If the person is still saying, I will pay you that money, but I don't have it, and Islam tells us, فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. You should really have the heart to wait on people who are going through difficult times. Even though you said, I'll give you this money, you give it to me after 2 years, the 2 years passed and now the person's not giving, but you trust that person will give you that money, then you know what? It's called Islamically wadi'ah. Wadi'a it means that instead of having it in my bank account, I have it with that person I trust. One day that person will give it to me, it doesn't matter. But she or he is going through difficult times. Alhamdulillah, we have a heart. So we pay zakat because this money belongs to us. It's like having it in RRSP. One day you will get it back. But if that person is denying it, is saying, no, you didn't give me that, or I'm never going to give it back to you, do whatever you want to do, then, you don't have to pay zakat for that money because you lost it. Okay, and it's better not to get into other details. So inshallah, this is how we treat loans. Can our local institutes arrange to collect zakat from members to distribute to community members eligible for zakat? Absolutely, because and this is from Dr. Nithwani, my greetings to you. I love my brother, Dr. Nithwani, who cares a lot for these kind of things. And there's something that he discussed privately with me, we are going to do, inshallah, once the dust of COVID settles down, inshallah, we will do to help needy people in the community. So I say, not everybody in this part of the world knows who is poor, who is destitute, who is in need. So we trust our institutions and we give them that money, and they have lists. I know that. I was told that there are lists of people who are really in need, and they will distribute, inshallah. We will be able to get copy of recording so that, inshallah, yes, from my brother Riza Rizvi in the Durham region in east of Toronto, inshallah, you can get a copy of that once we are done. Now, Ali is instructing me, but it's coming to the end. If you want to open the chat on the screen at the bottom, it will say chat. I tried it, Ali, but I will try again. Maybe I was too gentle on that. You see, I'm hitting it, but it's doing nothing. But it's okay. Alhamdulillah, we are getting those questions. What if the RRSP is locked in till I retire? So till I hit 60. Very good question from Brother Muhammad in Naji. I'm glad you asked this question. If it is locked in, I consulted with brothers who really, have knowledge of both the financial field as well as the fiqh field, and they said, no, you don't have to pay zakat until you unlock it. So that one is considered like a fixed asset, or like a stock that you intend to keep and you only collect dividends on. So no, you don't have to pay zakat on it. I have a chronic illness, so I cannot fast. I pay for each day €5 plus an amount zakat al-fitr. Is that enough? From one of the sisters, I say, obviously this is from Europe, and I say that if you have a chronic illness and the doctors told you you cannot fast, then for every day you cannot fast, you have to pay equivalent to feeding a needy person. You estimate in your city, in your town, how much this is. You multiply it by 30 or 29, whatever the number of days of Ramadan, and then you add, yes, zakat al-fitr to it, and you give it to that needy person, during the month of Ramadan, if you added zakat al-fitr to it. If you want to give that ransom or kafara before, some people say, I'm not trying to really be fatalistic here, may Allah give you long life, but they say, you cannot give kafara on the coming Ramadan. What if we don't live until we reach that Ramadan? Alhamdulillah, I choose the position that says, if you gave it and we die before Ramadan, alhamdulillah, this is sadaqah to our advantage. So yes, you can give it anytime you want. So I say, we bought a house last year, alhamdulillah, and we have used all our savings to pay the down payment. Do I also need give zakat that amount? If it is house of residence, where you live in, you don't give zakat on that at all. This is, you know, houses that you live in are not zakatable. However, investment houses, you know, again, the fixed asset, you don't pay zakat on, but you pay on the rent as it accumulates over a year because it's an income. So this is how you treat it. Now, do I have to pay zakat for my kids' own savings? You know, I want to tell you something, subhanAllah. I remember this morning, you know, I heard Sheikh Omar Abdul Kafi, may Allah give him a long, long life. And he was touched by it. I was touched by it. And in that recording, he said, he received, that is Sheikh Omar Abdul Kafi, a question from a 13 years old boy from Morocco. And he's saying, you know, he said, yeah, Sheikh Omar, my father gives me 2 dirham every day as my allowance. And I have, this is the 13 years old boy asking Sheikh Omar Abdul Kafi, he said, now I have accumulated from this allowance, daily allowance of 2 dirham, I accumulated 1,200 dirham. Do I pay zakat on that? And I was so touched, the same as Sheikh Omar Abdul Kafi was touched. He said, subhanallah, our ummah is going to live a long time. You know, this is the ummah of barakah. If a child 13 years old is saying, do I pay zakat on my allowance? Then we are the ummah of khayriyah, the ummah of goodness. So I say, now if your kids have savings that went through that year and they are above the nisab, tell them what you are going to do. Make them proud of what they are going to do and explain to them that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us in the Quran, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. Explain that to them. Tell them that if they pay zakat, then they are basically purifying that which belongs to them. Zakat does not, مَا نَقُصَ مَالٌ مِنْ صَدَقَةٍ. This I want to, you know, as we are getting close to the end of this live stream, you know, no wealth ever. This is a promise. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by the way, made three oaths, you know, OATHS, 3 in his life, in his entire life. One of them was when he said, مَا نَقُصَ مَالٌ مِنْ صَدَقَةٍ, that no wealth ever will depreciate because we give charity. You know, you give it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you back to manage because we are trustees over what Allah owns. This is not ours. We are only trustees over that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. Now, here, is there zakat on equity on rental property? Now, as I said in the previous question, that you know, I chose that the investment itself that you are using, if it is something that you do not intend to keep for a long time, it's a fixed asset. It's like having a taxi that you drive to earn money. You don't pay zakat on the taxi. You pay on the inventory in a shop because you are going to sell it and you are going to earn on a daily basis. So if your house is something, the investment property, if you are going to sell it, if you get a good buyer, then yes, you have to pay 2.5% on the equity that you accumulated in that investment property. Does family who is in need but may have gold above the nisab amount qualify for zakat? No, they don't qualify for zakat. One thing I did not talk about, subhanallah, maybe we need another live stream for zakat sometime during the month of Ramadan. I will, inshallah, because there are so many questions, that I have here. There is zakat on gold and silver, and here scholars differed. Imam Abu Hanifa was very specific that even the gold and silver that our wives wear for, ornaments for their own use, Imam Abu Hanifa said you have to pay zakat on them. Other imams, Imam Shafi'i said, no, you don't have to pay, but you pay on that gold and silver which you bought so that you can sell it when it appreciates in value. Then that you have to pay zakat on. But if it is yours to use, your wife is, you're buying it for your wife to use. But then again, some people may say, okay, I'm going to use one every day. No, this is the kind of extravagance that has no place in Islam. Now, I just joined, can you pay zakat on behalf of deceased? Now, a deceased person, usually whatever belonged to that deceased person now should have been distributed among his or her heirs. So now it belongs to them. So you don't pay zakat on behalf of somebody who deceased because they don't own anything in this dunya anymore. Whatever they paid, is what they keep with them, and you don't pay zakat on that. So Alhamdulillah, I still have many, many questions, but as I promised, I'm not going to take more than an hour of your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of those who joined me for this live stream. I hope it was beneficial. Let us finish by making a special dua, inshallah. So please join me in this dua. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من البرص والجنون والجذام وسيء الأسقام تحصنا بذي العزة والجبروت واعتصمنا برب الملكوت وتوكلنا على الحي الذي لا يموت اصرف عنا الأذى يا رب اصرف عنا الأذى يا الله اصرف عنا الأذى يا رب إنك بالإجابة جدير عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.